You might not have an income problem. You might just have a spending problem. But the good news is you don't have to give up everything you enjoy to cut costs out of your budget. You can think of this as spending smarter, not living smaller. Hi, I'm Jacob Wade from Lunch Money. I'm a financial coach, and today I want to show you how to cut your expenses in half, literally, without giving up everything you love. You can still enjoy life and still get value out of the things that you do spend money on, but you can save a ton of money along the way. So, we're going to break down where your money is actually going, how to trim the fat out of your budget, the three big moves that will actually move the needle in cutting your expenses in half, and then how to track all of that within the Lunch Money app. So, let's get right into it. All right, I want to be real upfront. Number one is focusing on the big three categories in your budget. If you really want to cut your expenses in half, if you want to save a ton of money, you need to focus on food, transportation, and housing. Those are the biggest costs in your entire budget. In fact, they typically take up over half of most people's monthly budget. But if you could optimize these three, you are well on your way to cutting your expenses in half. So let's break them down. All right, housing. This is the most expensive line item in most people's budget, and it can take up to a third or more of your monthly spending. So getting this one right can have a huge impact. Now, whether you rent or you own a home, there are ways to save a lot of money in your housing costs. Now, let's just say you're a renter and you're paying a market rate for some place that you're living. Here's a couple of ways that you can save hundreds of dollars per month or more, depending on what you choose to do here. Number one is just consider moving if you're in a rent situation where the rents keep continuing to rise, but maybe around you, you're noticing that there's places coming up and rents are going lower. There has been a bit of a housing crunch in the last couple of years, and you have a little bit more leverage than you used to, and you can potentially maybe just move locations somewhere nearby and shave off $500 a month on your rent. You could also try to negotiate directly with your landlord, show them comparable rents, and just say, hey, I am going to move unless you can bring your rate down to meet these. And then finally, you can consider moving out of a main city if you live near a larger city and move just out into the suburb areas and rent there. Yes, you will have a little bit of a longer commute, but if you could go from paying $2,500 a month for your apartment to $1,500, is an extra 20 minutes on your commute worth it? I'll leave that up to you, but if you could save $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year. That could have a huge impact on your finances. Now, if you own a home, if you purchased a home, I will say if you've done it in the last year or so, interest rates are crazy, payments are really high, insurance is getting out of whack in some states. I'm in Florida, insurance is also crazy. So there's a few ways to go about this. Number one is shop around that homeowner's insurance if you find that it's going really, really high and find a better rate. Number two is consider refinancing when rates drop. Now, rates are still high. The Fed hasn't dropped rates, but keep an eye on mortgage rates. Sometimes lenders will run deals or specials where you can drop your percentage, maybe a half a percentage or a whole percentage point, and that could save you hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month if you're at a current high interest rate. Another way to go about this is what's called recasting your mortgage. Not a lot of people know about this. Sometimes more lenders will allow you to recast your mortgage if you put like a large payment into the principal of your home. So let's say somehow you have $50,000 extra to put on your home principal, and maybe you owed 350 on your home, but you put 50 grand down and now you only owe 300. Well, your payment isn't going to change. That doesn't change your payment. What you have to do is ask your lender to do a recast of your mortgage. Let's say you still have 20 years left on a 30-year mortgage. You put that $50,000 in, you're still going to be paying, let's say it's, $2,800 a month, but if they recast it, it might drop it to 2,300 a month to pay for the next 20 years. So that recast of your mortgage can lower your monthly payment without really changing anything other than you kind of putting a large down payment down. And then finally, if you're really desperate to save a ton of money on housing, maybe you are in a situation where you just can't keep up with the high housing costs. If you have the opportunity to move in with someone, say a family member or a friend where you can get very low rent or even free rent for a while as a temporary solution, you can move there and save up a chunk of money, cut your costs way down, at least temporarily, while you save up to find another housing situation. And then finally, if you are a homeowner, consider having somebody rent a room in your home or maybe build out a room in your garage or accessory dwelling units. An ADU is a popular way to get a little space just, detached from your house where somebody could come in and rent that location. Again, you have to check with your county and zoning laws and stuff, but if you can get an ADU, you can start bringing in some rental income from that, and that can help cut your housing costs down. All right, the second massive expense is your transportation, your car. Average car payments in 2025 have gone to over $700 per month for buying a new car. Cars cost $40 to $50,000 these days. That is just a massive suck on your monthly expenses and your net worth. Because check it out, when you buy a car with a car payment of 700 and whatever dollars per month, and you're paying 9% interest rates, and your car is dropping in value, it's like a triple whammy. You have this massive car payment, and then you have an asset that's going down in value every time you drive the thing, and you're paying interest on it at the same time. And then, oh, not to mention, you have to get higher insurance rates on this vehicle because you have a loan against it and your lender wants to protect their investments. You have to pay for premium insurance. All of that could add up to over $1,000 a month in costs. So between your car payments, between your higher insurance rates, and between your fuel costs, you could be spending at least $1,000 a month on your car or more. Now, what I'm going to say might make you feel upset, but I'm going to rip the band-aid off here and say if you want to cut your car costs down to less than half of that, you need to sell the car if you have a payment. Sell the car. If you have some equity in it, sell the car. If you don't have equity in it and you're upside down, sell the car. List it privately on Facebook Marketplace or something like Auto Trader. Get that thing sold. And then even if you have a little bit of a balance left on your car payment, when you sell it, get a private loan or find some cash, find a way to get that paid off. Car payments on a depreciating asset is one of the worst things you can do with your money. And it's keeping you stuck because it is squeezing so much money out of your monthly budget. If you could sell the car and then find a used, say Honda or Toyota for $5,000 to $7,000 on Facebook Marketplace and get it inspected, you can still take it to a pre-purchase inspection at a mechanic you trust. You can probably find a really good deal and then drive around debt free. Or even if you have to get a small loan, a $5,000 loan is better than a $50,000 loan. And by the way, if you buy a Honda or Toyota that's 10, 15 years old, it's not going to drop much more in value than that $5,000 to $7,000 range, maybe even up to $10,000. That is going to cut that car payment out of your life. You might have a $200 car payment, let's call it, on a $10,000 car instead of a $700+ car payment. But now you can lower your insurance coverage because you're not covering a fancy, expensive car. You're covering a cheap, inexpensive, efficient car. And then just make sure you set a little bit of money aside for car maintenance. But again, if you get a Toyota or a Honda, those things are great on maintenance. And you might even be able to cut your fuel costs if you consider getting something like a hybrid. Toyota has some amazing hybrid options. The Toyota Prius, my neighbor's got one. He got over 200,000 miles and it still gets 50+ miles per gallon. It's legit. So you can cut your car costs from over $1,000 a month, probably down to about $300 to $400 a month. If you take this strategy, you could save yourself over $7,000 a year just making smarter decisions about your transportation. So combined with your housing of potentially saving $12,000 a year, $1,000 a month, right? There's almost $18,000, $20,000 a year right there in savings between just those two categories. Food is expensive, and it is the number 3 category that costs a ton of money every single month. If you got to feed your family to live, like, you're going to spend money on it, but there are more efficient ways to do it. I actually have an entire video on how to save money on groceries and food costs. You can check it out right here. But the idea is to make sure you have a plan in place, make sure you don't shop too often, avoid wasted money on prepackaged foods, and essentially just focus in on a really good meal plan. So meal planning is the idea of mapping out your entire week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks, have that all ready to go. And then when you go shopping, you just stick to the list. Avoid prepackaged foods, meaning like buy whole foods and cut them up. Don't buy pre-shredded cheese or pre-made meals or any of that stuff. They're going to charge you a massive premium, and the cost per ounce of food is going to be a whole lot higher, probably more than double than if you buy and prepare meals yourself. Now, again, there's a ton of other food hacks, and I've got the video here, but the idea is to just have a focused plan, stick to the plan, don't veer off, don't buy a bunch of prepackaged stuff, and you can save yourself hundreds of dollars per month on food. All right, just between those 3 categories, you could probably save over $20,000 per year if you make these big moves. Now, you need to be willing to do these things to cut your expenses in half, but if you do them strategically and correctly, you're not lowering or degrading your quality of life. Maybe you don't have the nicest car, but it gets you from A to B, the air conditioning, the radio works, you're good to go. Maybe you don't live in the exact same place, but you're saving thousands of dollars so that you can eventually buy your dream home. Maybe you don't have this free reign of a bunch of prepackaged foods and a bunch of convenient ways to eat, but does saving $400 a month, $4,800 a year, is that worth it? Right? You got to make those decisions. There's always a sacrifice, but if you can find a way to strategically do it, the sacrifice doesn't feel as big as the savings ends up being. So now that you know how to massively slash your budget, here's just a couple other savings hacks to find some quick wins within your budget and to make things operate more efficiently so you can eventually cut your spending completely in half. So number one is do a financial audit. I talk about this all the time on the channel. If you've watched any of my other videos, the financial audit allows you to look at where your money's actually been going, being honest with yourself. I tell people it's like holding a financial mirror up and going, oh, that's what it looks like. That's where my money's actually been going. Most people's mental accounting is very off of what they think they spend versus the actual data. So if you want to go through the last 60 to 90 days of spending, we're going to make that super easy here at Lunch Money. We'll give you a free 30-day trial. Just click the link below, sign up, connect your credit card to your bank account. You will be surprised at where your money has disappeared to because we're going to show you, once you connect your accounts, we'll show you the last 90 days of data. And that data is going to be auto-categorized in different categories. And so you can actually look at a high-level picture of my money has disappeared here, here, and here. And then you can even go to our recurring expenses tab and we'll show you a bunch of subscriptions that maybe you forgot about or expenses that you just don't remember that come out of your bank account every single month. Knowing that information, you are going to quickly identify 2 or 3 money leaks, ways where money is disappearing out of your life in categories you don't even know about or care about. And so once you see the information, you can now go, oh, let me plug those leaks real quick, right? I don't even use that gym membership, or I haven't watched that subscription in 6 months. You can really quickly cut those things out, save yourself hundreds of dollars per year, and then you can more efficiently use your money. So make sure you perform a financial audit, step number one. And then once that financial audit is created, here's a couple of categories to consider cutting and negotiating to save yourself even more money. Number one is subscriptions, right? I just talked about that, going through the recurring tab within the Lunch Money app and seeing what are these things that go out of my life. But here's a rule of thumb. For me, if I haven't touched the thing in 6 months to a year, why am I spending money on this every single month? Whether it's a online subscription, a Spotify or a streaming service or some type of box service that they send me something every single month. If I'm not actually utilizing the thing, if I have to force it into my life to try to make it work, it's not worth it. And when it's $5, $10, $15 a month times, 10 services that I barely touch, that's hundreds of dollars per month. So cut out subscriptions ruthlessly and then only add them back in if there's a massive need. Number two is shop around your car insurance. I would say shop all your types of insurance, homeowners insurance and health insurance and all that, but car insurance, you can find massive savings there. I actually did this. I was with a large gecko-based company, and I decided to get a quote from a competitor, and I said, "Here's all the coverage I have on my car, the exact same coverage amounts," and they said I could save $1,000 over the next 6 months, which was, almost $200 a month. It was mind-blowing, but they had an incentive to bring me over in as a new customer. Now, the rate has gone up since then, but it's still lower than the competitors. I do this every 6 months to 12 months. I check with 2 or 3 competitors on my car insurance. I give them the same coverage levels. I say, "Can you match or beat this?" Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. But don't worry. Just as long as you go with a reputable insurance company, you don't have to worry about level of service dropping. You get the same amount of coverage and the same customer support, but you can save yourself hundreds of dollars per month. And then finally, cell phone and internet. Cell phone and internet is a must these days, but you don't have to spend a ton of money on it. For me, my internet service is very inexpensive. It's less than $50 a month for high-speed internet, and you can just negotiate with them directly. Just call them up and say, "Hey, I'm looking at this flyer. Your competitor says, they'll give me the same internet for $40 a month. What are you going to do about it?" And if they can't do anything, it's not hard to switch competitors. They don't typically have high install services. Sometimes they'll just install it for free. You can rent their modems, make it super simple, and just switch your internet over and save money. But most of the time, your current service provider knows how much it costs, and so they don't want to spend that money. So they will try to match their deal so you don't have the hassle of switching and you get to save money per month. So make sure you negotiate your internet. On the cell phone side, A lot of the big carriers, will incentivize you to switch services to them, but still end up charging you more later. Go with like a prepaid service. They're pretty legit these days. They use the same towers as the big guys, but you can pay 20 bucks a month for unlimited talk and text. The only place they get you is the data plan. But if you can use Wi-Fi most of the time, maybe you won't use the 5 gig data limit or whatever they end up having on there. So places like Tello Wireless or Mint Mobile, you're going to find these really low cost plans. You can bring your phone over, you bring your phone number over. They make it a lot easier than it used to be. So those are just a couple of quick wins. Again, can save you dozens, 50 bucks, 100 plus dollars per month. And that adds up when you do that 3 or 4 or 5 different categories in your budget. Combined with those other big wins, you can see how quickly you can cut your expenses down. All right, next, I would consider doing what's called a hard reset. This is commonly known as a no spend challenge, but basically the idea is it's kind of like a cleanse, right? You're like, I'm going to go on the juice cleanse for the next 10 days. This is sort of like the juice cleanse for your budget. All you're going to do is stop spending on anything outside of your necessities. And there's really only 6 necessities. It's basically like food and housing and utilities and insurance and transportation costs and debt minimum payments. You got to make sure you have all those covered. Outside of that, everything else is not technically necessary for you to live. And if you can challenge yourself, it is a challenge, but if you can challenge yourself to stick to this for 30 days, it'll do a couple of really cool things. Number one, it'll have you prove to yourself, I can live on less than I make and less than I'm currently spending. But number two, it will reveal to you after those 30 days, maybe the things you don't want to add back into your life. Just like any cleanse, you typically slowly add foods and things back in. Maybe there's ones you just don't want to add back in because they're not serving you. Same with this. There might be, again, subscription services or things that you spend on that you're like, why am I spending on these things? I actually don't care about them and they don't move me toward my goals. They don't help me save more, invest more, any of that stuff. So a no spend challenge, I have an entire video on how to set one up and execute it right here. So you can check that out. But a no spend challenge is a great way to just hit reset on your financial life and give you some clarity on where your money's been going. All right, another trick here is to just use online cashback tools and coupon tools. So I found the easiest way is when I shop online just to do it in the Google Chrome browser, and they have what's called extensions. These Google Chrome extensions allow you to add it in, and when you're shopping on a website, this little extension will pop up and go, hey, you want to try this coupon code? Or hey, did you know this is cheaper somewhere else? So there's 2 tools I like to use. One's called Rakuten, and then Capital One has one called at Capital One Shopping. Just add both of those to your browser. They're going to have different deals, but you can not only find better deals, find coupons, you can actually click a button. It'll try to auto apply each of those coupons until you get one with a discount, but it'll also tell you, hey, maybe you're on Amazon.com. This item's 15 bucks cheaper on eBay or some other website. Then you just go over to that website and save money. And at the same time, a lot of times these purchases will kick you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% cash back or more. So you could earn cash back while getting a discount while buying at a cheaper website. So to me, it's a no-brainer. I've saved hundreds of dollars every single year using these apps, and I don't even have to lift a finger. It's built into the thing. I click a button, done. So try those apps out and they can actually save you money and earn cash back at the same time. And then finally, if you're serious about saving money, you need to look at places where you end up spending a lot of it. And sometimes that's on activities, entertainment, travel, things like that. So consider what are the free or low cost alternatives to the expensive things that I want to do. Like going to a T-Swift concert would be amazing, but if it's $800 for a pair of tickets, why don't you just find the local venues around that maybe you have a free concert in the park right here around town here. Sometimes we got free concerts in the park and you can bring the kids. Sometimes they have a movie in the park option. Just think of the activity you want to do and find the replacement for it. So maybe you want to go on an epic hike somewhere. Well, can you find that locally? Maybe you want to go hop on a boat and rent a boat for a day, but it's $1,000. Well, maybe you can rent kayaks for, 1/10 of the cost and still have some fun and go to see some really cool places on the water. Maybe you want to go to the fair. Well, let's go to the fair. Fair is a lot of fun and, save up for that. But just try to think of ways to replace expensive entertainment and activity options with things that are free or very low cost. There's so many ways to do that. You can just Google free things to do near me. There's so many ways to save money. So it doesn't have to cost a lot of money to have some fun. So really the key to cutting your expenses in half is really focusing on the big 3: housing, transportation, and food. If you can make massive changes in those areas while still enjoying your life, you can literally save over $1,000 a month or more. Then layer on things like meal planning and using cashback apps and doing free activities and some of these other strategies, and you can truly cut thousands of dollars out of your monthly budget while still enjoying your life. And you're going to save more, invest more, and achieve financial freedom sooner. And if you want help with that, that's what we do. We want to help you track your money, track your financial goals, track your net worth, and do it all in one simple place. So you can grab a free 30-day trial of Lunch Money. Just click the link below. You can log in, connect your financial accounts, see your full financial picture and what's going on, find how much you're spending in each of these categories, and then strategically go through and start to apply some of these ways to save money. And if you want to know what to do with that money while you're saving, I made an entire video here called Digital Sinking Funds on how to set up multiple savings accounts and save for different expenses throughout your life so you can hit your financial goals. So just check the video out right here.